Okay, okay, my friends, in my first section, and talking about the kingdom of heaven is at hand, I explained that we need to really get a good understanding of this. There are only two spirits. First of all, let me say, people don't take in consideration the fact that ideals are what rule on the social level. The physical body, the brain and the physical body, it has to carry ideals. But ideals rule. You know, the ideals tell that body what to do. So we got to understand that. Those are spirits. They live it. We have got to begin to look at it from that perspective. That ideals rule. And then we can gain a respect for ideals. Now there are only two ideals that can spearhead the moral aspects of the social development by mankind. Only two out of all the ideals that you can think of. You can only think of two ideals that can spearhead, be the leader of any moral way of living by mankind. Only two. So that's important. Now, and I explained that we have been operating on the idea something made are evil or not made by God. That's the idea that the whole world is operating on. It's been implanted in our subconscious mind. We've been had that idea ever since Adam and Eve ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's when it entered into the social development, that idea. Something is evil. God, in the first declaration, he said that everything he made, he said, and this is good. Nothing God made, he said, was evil. That's why he told Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree that said something was evil. But they did, and we've been operating on that idea. So realize ideas are important. We just can't run over ideas and ignore them like they're not even there, when they're controlling everything. So you got to give credit to that idea. It's there. And it's been leading the moral aspects of the social development by man. Now Jesus comes to bring what God said initially. Jesus comes to teach one message, his most important message in a way. You know, other than saying the kingdom of heaven is at hand, he's telling us a little bit about the kingdom. And he was telling us we had to be born of a spirit. And he was telling us that we had to be born of the spirit, all things are of God. That's why John got that from. In the beginning was the Word, and all things were made by God. You see? That's why John got that from the teaching of Jesus. That's what Jesus taught. He was trying to get us to come from that idea. We got to do that. You got to do that. If you want to go to heaven, you've got to do it. So I don't care what you do by going to church and feeding the hungry, clothing those who are naked, all the good things, taking care of the sick and the elderly, all of that not going to count. It's not going to count at all. Unless you're born of the idea, all things made are good and are made by God. Those are the two ideals. And we've got to a transition has to take place from the ideal, some things made are evil or not made by God, to the idea all things made are good and are made by God. You've got to do this. See, God sent me into the world to bring it to the world. I'm just beginning my ministry. I'll try to get into India later on this year if I can, this year. But it's hard for me to get financed. The church, I can't get any assistance from the church. But so I'm appealing to you, the people of faith who want to go to heaven, These are the things that you got to do. We've got to recognize these things. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, because I don't think people really taking into serious consideration that ideals rule. Ideals. You can't see them. They're non-physical. But when it comes to the social development, you can't do one thing without ideals. So you see, ideals are important. When I tell you that Jesus come to bring an idea, you better listen to that, because it's important. And that's the idea to lay the foundation for God's kingdom. And if you help and participate in bringing that kingdom about, then Jesus said you will have a place in the kingdom. But if you continue to go to church and do all this other stuff that you're doing without accepting that idea and without assisting that lamb to get to the top of the world, which I'm trying to get it there, without assisting, you're not going to have a place in heaven. You might well forget it. God has sent me to tell you this, so you better listen. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next section.